Hello guys, welcome to another wrap-up video. This one is for the David Harvey discussion. It was a really hard essay, I agree with you, but you actually did really well. In other classes people have struggled a little more than you did. I was pretty impressed. I was also very happy about that. What I want to do today is extend a little bit your discussions and maybe explain things in different ways, because some of the ideas were a little complex and I want to make sure that we understand them. And I also want to talk about the word ecology, because I want you to think about it in a slightly different way. What you say is not incorrect. I want you to take it in a different direction. I really appreciated some of your comments about sort of the pessimism that existed in writers like Harvey. I think you called it like postmodern pessimists, and I don't disagree with what you're trying to get at. But I want to sort of think about that pessimism productively rather than as a way of sort of being defeated by the difficulty of the city. He's actually quoting somebody from about 100 years ago. His name is Antonio Gramsci, who's an Italian thinker, an amazing writer. And he talks about cities and he talks about society as a space of tension, as a site of conflict, is exactly the phrase that he uses. And so what Harvey is trying to do is to remind us that there are individuals, communities, groups, clubs, societies, organizations, profit and non-profit, that are constantly interacting with each other and constantly in tension with each other. And that we need to be aware of that in order to move forward to make the city a better place. Because we'll never agree on anything. And so it's really key that notion of a site of conflict, instead of thinking about it as a defeatist way, think about it as a productive way. How can we find a dialogue with people that are not agreeing with each other? That's life. And so that's important to keep in mind. Things process. I know that was a little tricky, but I want to sort of stress this a little more. Let me give you a list of processes that happen in the city that produce things. Urbanization, modernization, things like migration, things very recently like gentrification. In the 1950s and 60s, they talked about something called urban renewal. All of those things are processes, and those processes create things. Let me give you an example from today in Chicago, which you actually talked about in your discussion. Beautification. How the city is constantly in the process of making itself and keeping itself pretty. That process creates things. Flower pots on Michigan Avenue, Millennium Park, the Cloud. All of those things are part of the beautifying process of the city. And so the reason of why the beautification exists, that's a really complex issue. There's tourism, the whole idea of creating a beautiful image, that making sure that everybody thinks Chicago is clean, at least in the loop. But all of those things are constantly creating things. And so remember, Harvey says, things are the products of processes. And so this is the way I want you to think about it. I want you to stress the process rather than the thing. Because the thing is that many cities try to fix the things without fixing the process. And the frustration that you explained in your discussion about why can't we get this done? It's because cities tend to fix the buildings, fix the bridges, put more tar on the road, rather than thinking, why are we having these problems? What can we change process way that will make those things better and therefore the city better? That's what he's talking about. Ecology. I want to go online so I can read this definition of ecology. It's from Khan Academy. Ecology is the study of how organisms interact with one another and with their physical environment. I'm going to read that again. Ecology is the study of how organisms interact with one another. I can't read. Let me try that again. Ecology is the study of how organisms interact with one another and with their physical environment. Nothing in that definition says anything about nature. but we have this notion that ecology is environment and environment is nature. The conversation that we had about nature in the city was wonderful, and it's something that I love that you sort of approached it. We have an entire class on that. We have another section of urban images that's all it does for 15 weeks. But what I want you to think about when he uses the word ecology, he's talking about this, about studying how organisms interact with one another and with their physical environment. And what Harvey is saying is that cities are an ecology. They are a space in which organisms interact with one another and with their physical environment. And so when he says at the beginning of the essay, it is really important to study cities, it is because it's part of the human ecology. It's where we live, where most of us live, where most of the people who are not living in cities are moving to cities. And so that's the way that he uses that word. So food for thought there, food for thought. Paper, all the instructions are there. They're ready to go for you. One piece of advice, because there were a few issues with the first paper. Make sure you follow the instructions. The reason why I'm asking you to write these papers is because I'm looking for specific things. How you can do this, how you can do that. And so read the essay, read the instructions carefully before you go on and write the paper. I'm giving you 2 clips, one from the Lego movie, and one from a really interesting city film of the Soviet era from the 1920s. If you have any questions, you know where I live. I live online, and you can email me anytime you want. All right. Have a wonderful weekend, and more stuff next week. I think gangster movies next week. All right. Bye. Where's the button to press pause? Stop. Here we go.